Florida State was historically bad last season. It was their worst season since 1973. They became the first AP preseason top 10 team to win less than 3 games in a season since the 1950s. They became the laughingstock of college football, with some saying one fan cursed them after saying he would eat dog shit out of a solo cup if they lost to Boston College, and not following through. 2025 has been a completely different year compared to 2024, as they have already tied their win totals from last season and are back inside the AP top 10. They dominated Alabama in week 1 of the season, shocking the college football world, and seemed primed for a college football playoff run this season. What changed? How did Mike Norvell fix this program again? And did the fan finally eat the dog shit? This is how Mike Norvell turned Florida State around. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know who you want me to talk about in future videos in the comment section below. Heading into the 2022 season, many felt it was a make or break year for Mike Norvell and Florida State. They were coming off a 3-6 season in 2020 and a 5-7 season in 2021. The program was embarrassed by a Jacksonville State team that was still at the FCS level at home, and it looked like the Seminoles fan base was going to continue to suffer. But then something finally clicked. Florida State would go 10-3, winning their bowl game, and there was hope around the program heading into 2023. Norvell continued to bolster the roster, bringing in Keon Coleman from Michigan State, Braden Fisk from Western Michigan, and Jared Verse from Albany, all of whom would go on to become top 40 NFL draft picks. Led by quarterback Jordan Travis, who only years earlier was booed by fans and almost quit football, Florida State would roll early on in the season. They would dominate number 5 LSU 45-24 in Orlando, and then crush Southern Miss 66-13. They followed that up by surviving against Boston College 31-29, or then traveling to Clemson and beating the Tigers 31-24 before their bye week. Following their bye week, Florida State was sitting at number 5 in the country and dominated throughout the month of October. They beat Virginia Tech 39-17, Syracuse 41-3, number 16 Duke 38-20, and Wake Forest 41-16. Entering the month of November, they were sitting at number 4 in the polls and just needed to stay healthy and continue to win to lock up a spot in the Final Four team college football playoffs. They would clinch a spot in the ACC title game, beating Pitt 24-7, or surviving against Miami 27-20 to move their winning streak to 11 straight. All they had left on their regular season schedule was North Alabama and a road game against Florida. It was very manageable. But then, in their blowout win against North Alabama, they would experience a nightmare situation. Jordan Travis would go down with a season-ending injury in their 58-13 win. Tate Rodemaker would take over for the injured Jordan Travis and led them to a win over Florida 24-15 and a win in the ACC title game, 16-6 over Louisville to finish the season 13-0 in ACC championship. Third-string quarterback Brock Glenn would get the start in the ACC title game due to Rodemaker suffering a concussion against Florida. With an undefeated record and a Power 4 conference title, they seemed like a lock for the college football playoff. Along with Michigan and Washington, they were the only other undefeated Power Conference team. If it was any other year or conference, they would have made it. Instead, they were left out. The 4 teams that made the college football playoff would be Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. Alabama's lone loss of the season was to Texas, while the Longhorns had a loss to Oklahoma. Alabama was the SEC champs, and Texas was the Big 12 champs. The move by the committee was not all that shocking, but still sent waves across the college football world. Norvell spoke on being left out of the playoffs, saying, "I'm disgusted and infuriated with the committee's decision today to have what was earned on the field taken away because of a small group of people decided they know better than the results of the games. What is the point of playing games? Do you tell your players it's okay to quit if someone goes down? Do you not play a senior on senior day for a fear of injury? Where's the motivation to schedule challenging non-conference games? We're not only an undefeated Power 5 conference champion, we also played 2 Power 5 non-conference games away from home and won both of them. I don't understand how we are supposed to think this is an acceptable way to evaluate a team. What happened today goes against everything that is true and right in college football." The committee felt that Florida State was not one of the 4 best teams, with Jordan Travis out. College Football Playoff Selection Committee Chairman Boo Corrigan explained, "Florida State is a different team than it was the first 11 weeks. As you look at who they are as a team right now, without Jordan Travis, without the offensive dynamic he brings, They are a different team, and the committee voted Alabama 4 and Florida State 5. This led to Jordan Travis tweeting out, "I wish my leg broke earlier in the season so y'all could see the team is much more than a quarterback." Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford said in a statement, "The consequences of giving in to a narrative of the moment are destructive, far-reaching and permanent, not just for Florida State, but college football as a whole. The argument of whether a team is the most deserving or best is a false equivalence. It renders a season up to yesterday irrelevant and significantly damages the legitimacy of the college football playoff. The committee failed college football today." Most of Florida State's team would opt out of their bowl game against Georgia, and they would get blown out 63-3, leaving a lot of what-ifs for the 2023 season. This led Florida State to suing the ACC and threatening a lawsuit against the College Football Playoff Committee. There were high expectations for Florida State heading into the 2024 season. Mike Norvell was rumored to be a top candidate for the Alabama head coaching job to replace a retired Nick Saban, but instead signed a $10 million a year contract extension through 2031 with Florida State. Norvell felt like they had a great plan going into the season, telling ESPN in July, "This has been arguably the best offseason I've ever been a part of. The way that they approached our winter drills, spring practice, summer, and the work has been there. It's a fast, explosive, powerful football team." The Seminoles were coming off a stretch where they were 23-4, and they entered the season as the 10th best team in the nation. They replaced Jordan Travis, who was in the NFL with the New York Jets, with former Clemson and Oregon State quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, after missing out on Cam Ward to Miami, and brought in Alabama wide receiver Malik Benson, along with 17 other players. They were replacing a lot of talent, with 10 players being selected in the 2024 NFL Draft, but it basically looked like they reloaded. Bill Steele projected them to finish tied for first in the ACC along with Miami and Clemson, and their over-under win total was 9.5. CBS Sports wrote, "The Seminoles don't get much of a break when it comes to their schedule, but Mike Norvell has done a great job of reinforcing depth throughout the roster with the transfer portal. So even though the Seminoles lost 10 players to the 2024 NFL Draft, a quick scan of the depth chart still shows an ACC title contender. Florida State will have one of the best pass rushing tandems in the ACC with Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr., as well as a collection of skill position talent that should set up quarterback DJ Uiagalelei for success in his return to the ACC. That would not end up being the reality. Florida State would be shocked by Georgia Tech 24-21 in the Aer Lingus Classic to open up the season, and then fell at home to a Tommy Castellanos-led Boston College team 28-13. In the first few weeks of the season, Florida State dropped from preseason top 10 to outside the AP top 25. Against the Eagles at home, Florida State got dominated across the board, and by the end of the game, looked like they were a team that had given up. Their run game was shut down by two teams who finished last in the ACC in 2023. Things were about to get much worse as they would fall to Memphis at home 20-12 to start the season 0-3. Their first win of the season would come against Cal 14-9 before being destroyed by SMU and Clemson 42-16 and 29-13 respectively. They were sitting at 1-5, and things only got worse from there. They lost to Duke 23-16, Miami 36-14, North Carolina 35-11, and Notre Dame 52-3. They were sitting at 1-9 during a season where they thought they would be 9-1 at this point. They would get their second win of the season against Charleston Southern 41-7, lost to Florida 31-11 to finish the year 2-10. When the Gators planted their flag triumphantly in the Tallahassee turf, FSU head coach Mike Norvell personally took the arch-rival's emblem and threw it to the ground. Critics cracked that the post-game uproar was the most fight the Seminoles had shown all year. It was the Seminoles' worst season since 1973. It's also the biggest drop in wins from one season to another, as they were the first team to win fewer than 3 games after starting in the AP top 10 of the preseason poll since 1956. It was a historically bad year, and one Florida State fans wanted to quickly forget. Heading into the 2025 season, there were major coaching changes by Mike Norvell and Florida State. Norvell chose to fire defensive coordinator Adam Fuller and offensive coordinator Alex Atkins. The move came after Florida State lost their third straight game by 20 points or more, and after they were embarrassed by Notre Dame on national television. Wide receivers coach Ron Duggins was also let go as well. Norvell explained, "I appreciate the work these 3 men have provided over the last 5 years with me at Florida State. They're all great men with families who have poured into our program. We had so many great moments together here, and I never doubted their passion for our players and for Florida State. Unfortunately, we have not upheld the Florida State standard with our results on the field this season. I did not make any of these decisions lightly, but but I felt like changes needed to be made to elevate our program back to where we all desire it to be. The Seminoles ranked last among 134 FBS teams in scoring with 13.3 points per game, and were 101st in scoring defense, surrendering 29.8 points per game at the time. To replace Fuller, Norvell brought in Nebraska defensive coordinator Tony White. White served as an assistant for San Diego State and Arizona State, before being promoted to defensive coordinator for the Sun Devils in 2019. He would go on to serve as a defensive coordinator for Syracuse and Nebraska. He was a protege to defensive guru Rocky Long, and many expected major improvement for Florida State's defense this season. The move to replace Atkins would be a shocking one. Norvell brought in UCF head coach Gus Malzahn to be the new offensive coordinator. The move was very similar to the move made by Chip Kelly the year before. Malzahn was seemingly on his way out at UCF at the time, due to how they were underperforming. Malzahn found a lot of success at Auburn back in the day as their offense coordinator, before going on to be the head coach at Arkansas State, Auburn, and UCF. He was instrumental in developing the hurry-up offense and has gone 105-62 as head coach, making it to the 2013 national title game and winning the 2010 national title game as an offense coordinator with Auburn. Ironically, Auburn would lose the 2013 national title game to Florida State. This was a controversial move according to the media, with former Georgia and Miami head coach Mark Richt defending Malzahn, saying, "Probably makes as much as an offense coordinator at FSU as a head coach at UCF. Gets to go back to being a play caller without the responsibilities of a head coach. That's what he loves." The reason it was controversial was Malzahn had stripped himself of play calling duties at UCF, and he thought this move was going to blow up in Norvell's and Florida State's face. Norvell defended the move, saying he has one of the most innovative minds in college football and a proven track record of developing elite offenses everywhere he's been. His offense has consistently showcased a tremendous running game combined with explosive plays through the air. Throw to work side by side with Gus, again as we elevated the Florida State offense back to one of the elite groups in college football. Heading into the 2025 season, Florida State would have another major roster overhaul, finishing with the 6th-ranked transfer portal class. Norvell went back to recruiting players that made them so successful in 2022 and 2023 by going after production rather than potential. At quarterback, they replaced EJ Uiagalelei with Boston College quarterback Tommy Castellanos. Castellanos was the only player in Boston College history to record more than 2,000 yards of passing and 1,000 yards of rushing in the same season. Norvell compared him to Jordan Travis, though the controversy around Castellanos is the belief he had quit on his team. Castellanos would also give Alabama bulletin board material over the summer, saying, "I dreamed of moments like this. I dreamed of playing against Alabama. They don't have Nick Saban to save them. I don't see them stopping me." This led to major media backlash, but Castellanos refused to back down. Alabama wide receiver Isaiah Horton snapped back, saying, "Y'all boys are going to see." Castellanos explained the quote to ESPN, saying, "Them boys are coming off a 2-10 season. I just wanted to instill some confidence. I'm trying to get my boys ready to go. I'm trying to make it the biggest stage." Along with Castellanos, Florida State would bring in Squirrel White from Tennessee, who left the Volunteers with the 7th most receptions in school history. They added center Luke Pettibon, who was one of the best centers in the ACC at Wake Forest. On the defensive side of the ball, Jeremiah Wilson finished 3rd in the Big 12 with 4 interceptions at Houston last year. They also added Deuce Robinson from USC at wide receiver. Norvell explained the process to The Athletic, saying, "I wanted to have an emphasis on guys that have done it. That doesn't mean that everything went great for them. I want to see their response." They also saw a massive departure of players with 36 transfers out. Those players included Hakeem Williams, Destin Hill, Patrick Payton, and Luke Romanhoek, among others. The players that stay wanted to change the culture at Florida State this season. Earl Little Jr. said at ACC Media Days, "Desperate to win, desperate to eat, just desperate to succeed." Heading into the 2025 season, Phil Steele projected Florida State to finish tied for 4th in the ACC behind Clemson, SMU, and Miami. According to Vegas, their over-under win total was 6.5 as well. Florida State would be tested early as they opened up the season hosting Alabama. The Crimson Tide were coming off a disappointing season after going 9-4 and entered the game as 13.5-point favorites. A lot of people, including myself, thought Alabama was going to dominate Florida State, and that point was reinforced when Bama drove down the field on their opening drive and scored. But then Florida State would bow up and dominate Alabama the rest of the game. They held the Crimson Tide to 87 rushing yards and 254 passing yards, while dominating Bama's defense, rushing for 233 yards on the ground. Castellanos would be proven right, as Alabama could not stop the quarterback, and Florida State would shock the college football world, beating Alabama 31-17. The following day, Castellanos dropped t-shirts that read, "Nick can't save them." Castellano's prophecy proved true as he accounted for 230 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. They then dominated East Texas A&M University 77-3, avoiding a hangover, finishing the game with 361 rushing yards and 368 passing yards. They went into half up 49-0, and Castellanos and the rest of the starters would not need to play much. After a bye week last week, they now host Kent State this upcoming weekend. Florida State is currently sitting at number 7 in the AP poll, and number 9 in the coaches poll, and they are the second highest ranked ACC team behind Miami. Florida State has a relatively manageable schedule the remainder of the season. They open up ACC play next week against Virginia on the road, before hosting Miami at home, which could be the biggest matchup of the season. They then host Pitt before traveling on the road to play a dreadful Stanford team. They return home to play Wake Forest before traveling to Death Valley to take on a Clemson team that is underperforming right now. They then return home to play Virginia Tech, a team that just got blown out by Old Dominion and fired their head coach, so that roster may be depleted at the time. They close out the season on the road against NC State and in Gainesville against Florida. With the way this Florida State team is playing, they could probably lose 2 games and still make the college football playoffs. This is an amazing turnaround after a brutal season last year. I can't wait to see how they perform in the remainder of the season. What do you think? How does Florida State finish the season? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.